G'day, guys. Welcome back. Statchat Sports. Tazza and Steve here to talk football, to talk Premier League. Tazza, we start at the top. Derby weekend just gone with two big games, the Manchester Derby and the North London Derby. Two big results in their own right, but in terms of title race as well, huge games. Manchester Derby was up first. I think it was 8:30 Saturday night, Perth time for us. Great time. It was watched by myself. Plenty of talking points, and not for the first time. I feel like every single week we just about talk about refereeing and VAR controversies. But this one might just top it off. Lots of talking points, and it all pointed down to the Bruno Fernandes goal for 1-1. The Rashford offside. Was he onside? Was he offside? We were given the explanation, and it still didn't make a lot of sense. Your thoughts, mate? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I did say that. Was he interfering with the play? Look, I've talked to a few United supporters, and they even were thinking, if I was on the other side of the coin, I'd be pissed off. I'd be pissed off that was allowed. So, look, you win some, you lose some. And in this case, United supporters have won this one. And it's got huge ramifications on the title race. That's 8-point lead now. We'll get to the other side of the coin with Arsenal. But, yeah, City really dropping off the pace here. 8 points is a lot after Christmas. Any time after Christmas. It's only January, but the way Arsenal are playing, City can't afford many more slip-ups. But, I mean, all credit to United. Went back and I think they were down and scored the two to get the win. So it was huge effort from them.
So from your perspective, the goal was given because it was seen that obviously without touching the ball, Rashford was seen to not interfere with play. Now, from my perspective, it seemed like, obviously the players, the Man City players involved in that, Akanji and Edison. I think you could take Akanji out of the equation. I think if you just remove Rashford from the picture, Akanji is pretty much just, doesn't really need to be there. He's not making the ball. The only thing potentially is given the fact that Rashford was running through on goal, does that change the decision for Edison to come out and play that sweeper role that he always does? If Rashford wasn't there, does he maybe make the decision earlier? So does he, in saying that, does he directly affect Edison's decision, therefore affecting a player, therefore maybe given offside? I think that's the main argument that people are making. Is that yes, he did, his movements affected the Man City players around him, which, by the rule book should then be given as offside.
Yeah, I suppose it depends on your interpretation of the rule. I mean, the rules are rules. It's clear cut, black and white, whatever. It's in there. But yeah, to me, he did, like, he definitely, he affected the play. He interfered with how the play was, probably how the play looked to be proceeding, and really threw off the City defenders. So it's a tough one, but I mean, yeah, it's just you can look at it from a United point. It was a good play, but yeah, they've done well.
Well, the North London Derby had far less controversy, but a result I think probably many expected, to be perfectly honest. Besides what happened at full time between Aaron Ramsdale and a fan, I think tried to kick him or something like that when he was going for a goal. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. And Richarlison, who I think everyone in the world besides Spurs supporters hates, getting involved in,
and Brazilians,
getting involved in shit that he doesn't need to get involved in. I mean, I didn't watch this whole game. I'll admit that, but I know it's a North London derby, but I mean, fans don't need to be getting involved in like this, and why? I think it was the full time whistle blown, and I believe Ramsdale was just walking back to the goal to get his water bottle. And I don't know if Richarlison thought he was going to give the fans the big one or whatever, but he starts like pushing him in his face and everything like this. And credit to Ramsdale, keeps his cool and just sort of chills, but pretty unnecessary.
Yeah, it's not something we need to see. And what is it going to do to affect the final result? You're going to do absolutely nothing by it. It's not. We're trying to stamp this kind of stuff out the game, and just completely needless. Yeah, and Ramsdale, to his credit, absolutely was pretty solid and just really deflecting. Just he was the bigger person. I mean, if you just won the North London derby 2-0, you probably would be the bigger person. You'd be chuffed. So there's no point for him to get involved. But the fan, I mean, we're trying so hard to kick this kind of crap out, and I mean, pardon the pun, but to kick it out. I mean, he had a good swing at Ramsdale, and that could have done some damage if he'd properly connected. The way he come in with some gusto. So just, I mean, I don't, what's sit behind the fence. You're a spectator. Just got to remember that sometimes. Yeah, there's 11 guys. 22 guys out on the pitch. They're doing battle. Just leave them alone.
Yeah, and it's my understanding. I believe Spurs are looking into the incident, and he'll probably end up getting a life ban. Well, that's the punishment you would think is justified for that sort of action. So yeah, good to see. We'll see that there. But did you see Richarlison's antics on the sideline as well before he even came on the pitch with what's his name? Tomiyasu on.
I didn't know. I didn't say it.
It was nothing like crazy, but it's just standard Richarlison. I think it was either a corner or a throw in. I couldn't quite tell from the footage that I've seen, but Arsenal either had a corner or a throw in on closer towards the corner flag, and Tomiyasu and Richarlison were down there sort of warming up, and obviously Richarlison wasn't too happy with maybe it was taking too long or something like that, so he starts sort of walking closer to him, and Tomiyasu is sort of there, so he sort of like puts his arm out just to say like just back off, and he just waxed out the way, and then gets like right up into his face. I can't stand this guy, man. I hated him at Everton and I hate him here, and it's not because he's a bad player or anything like that. He's just got a shit attitude.
Yeah, it's completely unnecessary. I mean, if you're bagging in goals for fun, it might be a little bit more tolerated, but he's not. I mean, he's been largely a flop at Spurs. So it looks like, not that you would completely tolerate it if he was banging in goals, but it makes it so much worse. I mean, you've got absolutely no leg to stand on. Your team's getting pumped, or your team's getting played off the park, and you're coming up with this kind of tripe, like, jog on. Just yeah. Yeah, it infuriates me just as much, and he's one of the worst for it. He's just too hot-headed, and he's going to be careful because he's going to get a reputation for it soon, if he hasn't already.
He has some reputation towards it. I'd say that's a pretty fair thing to say.
I think so. On the back of Arsenal's 2-0 win at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, they have received a bit of negative news that they have missed out on the signing of Mykhailo Mudryk. It was a much protracted transfer there. I mean, there was a lot of backwards and forwards, a lot of rejected bids from what I can see. And then Chelsea have absolutely just stolen a march, just money bags Chelsea. I think it was 70 mil in the end with a big chunk of add-ons.
Yeah,
I think it was 30 add-ons, but they're quite achievable. So that will probably round out at 100 mil. Huge transfer for a largely unproven player. I don't know about this one. He seemed to be more of a I don't know. He's definitely is a skillful player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know if there's a hell of a lot of substance to this bloke, and we haven't seen that. I mean, he's coming from Shakhtar Donetsk, so I mean, has he been tested at the highest level to really justify this price tag? You could say the same for Nunes, but we did see it in the Champions League, and we saw him shine there.
Yeah, I agree. Like I haven't seen too much of him, I'll admit, but yeah, he does seem like a good, skillful player. And I mean, it's like we've seen some talent come from Shakhtar in the past. So it's they're not unfamiliar to this, but the price tag is outrageous. I believe when the whole negotiations even first started, I think it might have started at 40 million from Arsenal, and then it's gone to I think it would have gone up to around the 60 mark, still with Arsenal. And then Chelsea just come in with just absolutely outrageous numbers. But what the part I don't understand is that like the player himself couldn't have given the hint more that he wanted the Arsenal move. It was all over
Yeah,
his Instagram page. He was even like talking up how he was going to, potentially make his Premier League debut against United later on this month for playing for Arsenal, and then complete 360 and ends up at Chelsea. It's baffling. And then, from a Chelsea perspective, if I'm seeing that, I'm just not even bothering, because you're picking up a player who quite clearly doesn't want to play for you. Well, it's not saying that he doesn't want to play for the club, but he clearly has interests in other clubs, playing at another club. So it just doesn't make sense. And, it's a flex from Chelsea to say, we have the more buying power, and two, we have the more attractive club, let's say, because even though a player that so heavily wanted to play, for Arsenal has now said, yeah, no, well, I'll come play for you guys instead. Don't know the ins and outs of the contracts or anything like that in terms of wages and what was agreed, but it's ridiculous. I mean, it is absolutely achievable to get to the 100 mil mark. I think there's things in there about winning the Premier League and winning the Champions League, which with the amount of money that they're throwing around at the moment, that's not out of the picture at all. For me, it screams Todd Bowley, the Chelsea manager, is attempting to buy his way with the fans. He's just signed João Felix on a 6-month loan for a deal worth around 11 or 15 million
which is
pound.
basically a 5-month loan now after his red card.
After his straight red card in the debut, which doesn't look great for him. There's that there. And have they signed anybody else this window, or was they?
Well, they've got Nkunku, but that's coming next
Nkunku,
one.
that's right.
But
Yeah,
that was a decent
another
chunk.
Todd Bowley signing. So, next year you've got to, well, obviously take Felix out of it. He's not going to be there next year, but you've got like 180 million or 100. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head how much the Nkunku signing is, but you've got,
I think it was 60 odd.
yeah,
maybe.
so you've got around 160
Yeah.
million pound worth of signing in two signings on players that I think even Chelsea fans would admit they don't really necessarily need. They're probably more looking at, maybe defenders or midfielders at the moment. So yeah, it just seems like, Bowley, he's flexing his muscles a bit. He's showing the wallet, and he just thinks he can get anyone at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a cash splash from my point of view. Yeah, he's probably, obviously, you look at how Liverpool supporters up in arms about the lack of spending, and you got Bowley just splashing the cash. Here you go, pay you. We want you. Come here. Yeah, and straight off the back of the Felix signing as well, they're two very similar players. So, I mean, obviously Felix is the loan, Woodrick the permanent signing. But yeah, the money's better spent elsewhere for me. Definitely in a Chelsea team that's really, they're just not producing anything. I mean, they got the 1-0 win against Fulham. No, they lost to Fulham.
They lost to Fulham.
Palace.
Oh yeah.
So that was, yeah. I mean, points on the board. Potter's pressure is a little bit off, but geez, 100 mil at this point for a guy like Woodrick. Yeah, I'm not convinced that's the right move for Chelsea. Definitely, I think, like you said, money better spent elsewhere. You've got an aging Thiago Silva at the back that probably needs to be moved on a little bit. And the midfield, in the absence of N'Golo Kante, is definitely a problem. But yeah, I mean, the love affair with Arsenal, I've never seen a player really just I don't know, beg for the move. I mean, there was the Instagram post where he had the praying hands and was, I think it was just the blank thing with that emoji. I was
Mm.
just, it was so obvious and so um, I don't know. I just thought he would have held out a little bit longer. Obviously, Shakhtar pulled the strings at the end of the day. They got a bigger sum, and I suppose Mudryk didn't want to see his Premier League move fall through. So I mean, how much loyalty was there at the end of the day? I'm not really sure there was much.
Yeah.
He just wanted to take that next step in his career. So good on him. But um, yeah, this one could blow up in their faces. But um, speaking of a high-profile transfer that probably has blown up in a club's face, and it's the first one. I'm going to look at Liverpool. This one's probably the first under Jurgen Klopp that's really failed, and we got basically confirmation the other day that it's done, it's over. So Naby Keita is we've basically heard that the negotiations for the new contract are over. They're done. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to take enough of a cut to justify him staying around. And it looks after I think it was it's 50 odd mil.
Yeah,
I
50
think
comes to mind for some reason.
53.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, it's in the 50s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a sizable amount anyway. I mean, they signed Mane, Salah for less. The only other one that probably comes to mind is Ox. Hasn't really set it alight either.
Mm.
But I mean, he's had his moments. But I can't really say. Given the magnitude of the transfer and how much confidence that Klopp had in the Keita transfer, it really hasn't worked out for them.
Well, I mean, when did he sign? 2018. So what's that now? This is now technically his 5th year in the club. 5 years ago when he signed, 50 odd million, whatever the fee was a pretty decent chunk at that time for a midfielder. And, it's unfortunate that he's had so many injuries because he was some player at Leipzig. He was like just lighting it up there. He was basically, it was spoken that he was essentially like the N'Golo Kante of the Bundesliga, the way he played, with the energy and the drive, picking up the ball and stuff. Like he was probably a little bit more better going forward, whereas Keita had the better ability defensively. But they were compared between each other, those two, and I don't necessarily doubt that without the injuries, he wouldn't have gone on to be, he would have gone on to be much more of a staple within Liverpool's side because he's just the Klopp player to a T in terms of the his energy and stuff like that. So it's unfortunate for him, but these things happen in football. Injuries happen. It's happened to a lot of players. They've spent more of their career on the sideline than on the pitch, and it's about that time, I think, for him to move on. And this is the thing with Liverpool is that at the moment they're hanging on to far too much dead wood. Who players are soaking up money in wages and spots within the squad when they don't need to be. It's Keita's time. I'd 100% move him on. Ox is another one I'd move on. There's just they're guys that just don't. I think Ox is on 150 odd plus at the moment. He's on a fair bit for a player that is doesn't play an awful lot. So yeah, and I mean that's the frustrating thing to look at when you're a Liverpool fan is that the money's there, so we're told. It just doesn't get spent, and this is the I'm glad you mentioned this because it's been sitting on my mind for ages and it's been pissing me off this whole transfer window. Is the whole midfield debacle in Liverpool. At the moment it's bad. It couldn't really get any worse for them compared to where they were 4 or 5 years ago. And it's because the midfield is old, it's older, it's less energetic, and all of this sort of stuff. And the part that really baffles me the most is that after the window shut in August or September, whenever it was that it shut, Klopp publicly came out in a press conference and said, "We were wrong, you were right. We should have signed a midfielder. We should have done this. Blah 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 blah." As expected, a panic buy came in, and they brought on Arthur on loan from Juventus, who's done 1/8 absolute sweet FA. Because like Navigator spent most of his time on the sideline. I actually think he's played like 13 minutes for the first team or something crazy like that. He's played a handful of minutes in the reserves, and apart from that, he's been on crutches or something. I don't know. So that went to shit. That didn't work. Here we are in January. Transfer window opens. We bring in Cody Kakpo. Not complaining. Certainly not complaining. It's now the 16th of January, and it seems like at this time we've been linked with 3 midfielders: Enzo Fernandez, Amrabat, and Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham, not going to happen in January. That's just about a concrete. Enzo Fernandez, this interest seems to be dwelled and is no longer there. And Fiorentina have basically come out and said Amrabat not moving in January. There goes your 3 midfield targets in January. We're left with, where is the midfield signing? There's no midfield signing. You stay in January, you say, we should have signed a midfielder. Where is it?
But the thing is here, we can go to, I'm looking at the signings under Jurgen Klopp. So this is in his whole reign. In terms of first-team signings, I mean, this isn't a problem for this window. This is a problem that should have been solved 1, 2, 3 windows ago. We have it's clearly an aging midfield. You've got Henderson at 31. You've got, look, straight away, Henderson 31. I'm pretty sure Thiago's 32. They're aging. They're the wrong side of 30. There's just this awful divide in terms of the first team guys and the up-and-comers. There's absolutely no one that sits in between that. There's no one in that 25, 26 who's in their prime and ready to take the mantle of that midfield. Right now, they're looking at Harvey Elliott to be that guy.
He's not that guy.
I don't even know if he's going to ever be that guy, let alone right now. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And the last first-team midfield signing that Liverpool made was Thiago. Really, I'm looking down here. I mean, that's really. I mean, you could look at Carvalho as a midfield signing, but that's not a first-team signing.
No.
That was a future signing. That was one for the future. There's no one in here. I mean, and Arthur was alone. I mean, he has barely played a first-team minute. And so we're going back to September 2020 was the last first-team midfielder signing for Liverpool. It's just total mismanagement from every way you look at it. How have we gone? So obviously the winter window, we've had 4 windows there where nothing's come in.
Yep.
There's been plenty of guys up there. I mean, you can't tell me that no one that's sort of fit the brief has popped up. How short is your brief? I mean, I think you need to open your expanses a little bit if people aren't popping up, because now we're left with a great big hole in midfield, and yeah, we'll probably lose Cater and Ox this window. Then what have we got? I mean, I'd want to be seeing at least 3 midfielders coming in to that team, because we're running paper thin now. I mean, if like usual, Thiago goes down again, and I mean, the amount of time he's spent in the team lately, it's probably the most he ever has. So within the next 4 weeks, there's probably an injury around the corner. I do not wish that in any way, shape or form, but the form would say that there's probably another injury coming around. Then what happens? It's absolutely paper thin, and it's only going to get worse.
Football games are won and lost in the middle of the park. Now,
Yeah.
Tell me the last time you've seen any side, out possess a Liverpool side. Even like the likes of Man City and stuff. That's always tight. It has been for many, many years. They've played 40% possession against Brighton at the weekend, and nearly
Brighton.
over 200 less passes, and nearly 300 less touches of the football than them. And that's a midfield with the likes of obviously World Cup winner McAllister and another Liverpool transfer target that I forgot to mention in Caicedo, which again, forget it. It's not happening this window again, and now it might not happen at all. I mean, I wouldn't. If I'm
Why
him,
would he?
yeah, if I'm him, I wouldn't bother. Brighton are in a much better position than us at the moment. So, in all fairness, respect to Brighton, it's Brighton. You know, if that happened against City, okay, I'll accept it, but not against Brighton. Not the way that this Liverpool side has been sort of, you know, built to play. They're a possession based side, and when they don't have it, they win it back in a trice. You know, that's been the Klopp way. That's always been the Klopp way. That's no longer the way. They just physically have not got the legs to do it anymore. Probably the biggest thing is that they never replaced Gini Wijnaldum when he left. They brought in Thiago, which was a completely different player and almost a shift of identity for Liverpool. They, instead of going from that high energetic, sort of, it wasn't sloppy, but you know what I mean. When it's high energy and fast paced,
it's frenetic.
It's frenetic.
Yeah.
Instead, they've gone to a little bit of a slower, more finessed style with Thiago, you know, almost as a quarterback. And I, you know, as much as I like Thiago and you know, he was a you know, an interesting signing at the time, it hasn't worked. It's as simple as that.
Thiago to me was an opportunistic signing. I thought it's some guy. He's more of a weapon. He should have been utilized as a weapon when needed. Break glass in case of emergency. He's not the be all and end all for this team. He can't be. He doesn't work in a system like that. He never has. It's always been a Barcelona. It was a tiki taka. Or it was let's bounce the ball around and it was just connect a million passes. It was the way they played. At Bayern Munich, it was something similar, but then the heavy metal style never fit Thiago's game plan. It never has. And to me, he was the sprinkles on top of a good team. He was never there to be a quarterback, and he just can't quarterback the team. He can't sit back and guard the defense. And right now, we don't have enough possession for him to pick a good pass. Like, we don't control the ball anymore. So what's the point of having a guy like that sitting around the team when we're just not holding on to the ball long enough for him to be productive?
Yeah.
And so it's just like you said, Wijnaldum was. I don't think anyone really. Every game that goes past, Wijnaldum looks better and better. It's so glaringly obvious that we lack the workhorse. It used to be Henderson, but there's too many holes in this midfield now. Fabinho's a shade of the player he was, and I don't know. I don't know how it all went so wrong so quickly.
Yeah,
that is the. I mean, it hasn't been a steady decline. Like we can say the midfielders are old. The problems are there to see, but how did they become so bad so quick? That's what I don't get, and I haven't seen much from Klopp in terms of if the transfer market isn't the problem, it isn't the solution, like he is saying, or whether that he's just a puppet for FSG. I don't know. But if the transfer window isn't the problem, isn't the solution, then what are you doing? Like, where does this? In which way do we turn this around? Because it's pure insanity. We just go out there and play the same game and get rolled every weekend at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking then. What I can't remember when the last season ended, if it was September or August, but we were about 3 or 4 months ago. We were on the brink of a quadruple, and now we're already out of one competition. We're on the brink of out of another. The Champions League at the moment is the only thing that they have performed semi well in, and I think they're sitting in 10th spot at the moment. They're way off the pace in the Premier League.
9th, Chelsea's 10th, and then look at this weekend. Liverpool v Chelsea. That is going to be an absolute shit show.
What have they been calling it? El Shitico or something like that?
El Shitico. that is an absolutely great name for it because it's dead accurate. It could be awful.
It's absolutely fitting. Yeah, it's a shocker. So, like you said, it hasn't been a slow decline. It's been been a rapid decline, and it's been super quick that I just think it's caught them by surprise, you know. And yeah, I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how they can fix it without you know, a little bit more in money injection. That's the only thing I can see, and then perhaps them, you know, going after who they want in the transfer. I think they've been, you know, Klopp's been told that he's got like 250 million to spend in the next window, which if your prime target is Bellingham, I don't know what his transfer market value is at the moment, but by the end of the year, that could skyrocket to close to 200 million anyway. There goes your budget. And what do you do? Bring in one midfielder? Yeah, it's Jude Bellingham, and he's a great player, but is he going to solve your midfield problems? Not as many as we've got.
At this point, look at the demographic of the midfield. There needs to be, like, I genuinely believe there needs to be at least 2 elite midfielders or 3 above average ones, because one person doesn't solve this problem. One person doesn't. I mean, Fabinho's a good player, he's a great player, but I don't know what's happened, where he's gone, or where his head's at. He's clearly going to hang around, and I mean, he'll be given the time to sort out his problems. But Henderson probably is on his way out. Not now, but there needs to be some sort of succession plan, because he isn't the future, and Thiago is getting there. So there needs to be bodies, and like I've said it a few times, we're probably going to lose Oxencater, and then Milner's 36. So I mean, there needs to be bodies, lots of bodies coming in, because Harvey Elliott and Carvalho aren't going to do the job. No way. And I mean, I don't even know if in 3 years they'll be doing the job.
Yeah, no, it's funny to think that at the start of the month or towards the back end of the World Cup, you and I were having the conversation, and talking about a potential new midfield 3 of Amrabat, Enzo Fernandez, Jude Bellingham, and then here we are in the middle of January, still looking at Fabinho, Henderson, and Henderson with no new midfield signings. So it's depressing from our perspective.
If this window's taught me anything, it's not to buy into the crap that the journos spit. I've spent way too much time on Twitter in the last month and a bit, and I've just absolutely bought into all the shit. So yeah, look, I learned my lesson.
And if it's not reported by Fabrizio, it's not true.
It's no good. Don't take any news unless it's through Fabrizio. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we can pretty much sit here all day and talk about Liverpool, but we're going to run out of time, so we'll leave it there. So thank you very much for watching. If you are new, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss out on all the videos, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.